fellas. This is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for this devotional. Today we're in Galatians chapter 2. I'm going to read verse 6 for you today. Feels like we're kind of jumping in the middle here. I know that. I'll explain that in a second. Paul says, and from those who seemed to be influential, what they were makes no difference to me because God shows no partiality. Those, I say, who seemed influential added nothing to me. Now, I got to say, I love this little parenthetical statement by Paul here because he makes a fantastic point, and we could easily read past these words and miss it. But I want to pause here for a second, and I want you to notice the repetition of the phrase seemed influential. I'm going to read it again. Listen to it. He says, and from those who seemed to be influential, and then later he says, those I say who seemed influential added nothing to me. Because I think this point right here plays a critical role in debunking the issues that are happening in the Galatian churches. And I think it should play a critical role in actually debunking the issues and leadership of the church today because, fellas, we ascribe way too much value to the brand, style, and leadership in the modern church. We make a big deal of the wrong things. And because we do, we invite in distractions from the thing that is a really big deal. So when I show up to speak somewhere, which is a lot now that the so-called pandemic is over, sometimes men will make a big deal of me. Therefore, when I get up to speak, one of the first things I do is invite the men from the audience to come and to get to know me after the talk. I do this every time without fail. I invite them to introduce themselves to me because I have introduced myself to them. And I know that this simple little invitation will break down that big deal that they're prone to make of me in their own minds. And I do this for two reasons. First, it's my way to tell them that I'm not that big of a deal. Because guess what? I'm not that big of a deal. I'm not that cool. I'm not that gifted. I'm not that smart. And I'm not that perfect. I'm a guy just like the rest of the men in any room. I tell dad jokes that are legendary in my mind, which I laugh at harder than others do. Sometimes I say sarcastic things to my wife and kids, which I regret later. And I have divergent thoughts that I'd be embarrassed about if they were played back on the screen for the world to see. So when I get up to speak, I want guys to know that I'm not that big of a deal. Second, I do this because if they think that I'm a big deal, their thoughts about me will detract attention from the one who is a big deal. He's the person I speak about more than any other. He's a man who lived and died and rose again and was a very big deal. His name is Jesus, and he is the real big deal. And over the years, I've discovered that I have to work pretty hard at not making a big deal of myself or letting others make a big deal of me. Because sometimes the temptation to be a big deal is a really big deal. It's tempting when you're a little down and a little defeated and a little lonely or a little tired to crave the desire to be a big deal. And then someone will come along and make a big deal of you. And it feels good when this happens because, let's be honest, you might need a little lift. But the problem is, even a little of this is addicting. It's like a drug. It's the worst drug. It's a drug you feed yourself with yourself, and you have access to it in unlimited quantities because you've got access to it all the time. It's more of you, So today, fellas, practice making a big deal of the right person. But remember, we're not beating ourselves down to make a big deal of him. We're just giving more attention to the one who is a big deal. There, I said big deal like 500 times today. Well, if this has blessed you, fellas, I want to encourage you to share it with someone else. Please do that for me. Give me a little thumbs up, a little encouragement. Leave a comment for me below so I can think less of myself and more of him. That's how I do it. That's how you should too. And I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.